there. I gave my girl some lead so she could be out here with us. I couldn't think of a better place to watch the eclipse than out here. It's so cool. There's just a tiny, tiny little crescent of the sun that's visible. I am sitting on a quilt that we need to talk about. But first, let's talk about a different quilt. I had the most wonderful of mornings. I went to my friend Sherry Spivey's quilt shop, and hers is a actual quilting shop. It is a long arm quilting service. She has an actual storefront, a storefront business, you know, brick and mortar kind of place. And it's the coolest, sweetest spot in the world. Like, and nearby there, not too far away, are some cute little eateries. I think one day I need to stop by and get some French croissants and take over and just have some tea with her. That's another thing to happen on another day. But speaking of stories, that's what this visit was all about at Sherry's. I went in and did an interview with one of her customers. This wonderful woman had quilted up such a gift of love. It's, you know, when something stretches over years from the time that the idea is seeded into the time it's, you know, it's planted and nourished and watered over the course of years and then comes to fruition, you know that is something that is done out of love. And I love that kind of thing. And I love a good narrative. I love a good story. And that's what this one is. In fact, it's got a great story behind it. So I did an interview, and we're going to play that next. Wait just a minute. Let me check out what the sun's doing. Oh. It's changing. So it is so it's 1:56 in Scottsboro, Alabama at Gunnersville Lake. So we're kind of in the middle, right now in the middle of probably the maximum coverage. In fact, it seems brighter just right now, doesn't it? Just a little bit. Oh, hey, baby girl, you can lay down and rest. Yes, you can. Stacy Houk is the quilter of this wonderful narrative quilt, this quilt of love. And we're gonna sit down with her at Sherry's place and just have a little chat, let her talk about her quilt, and then I'll let her read to you the story that was built around it as we showcase each of the blocks. I think there are 56 different blocks that go along with the story. It's just such a sweet story. Hope you enjoy.
My daughter and I made this for her best friend that she met at college the first day they went to college. They were both, her best friend was from St. Louis, and they wound up in Liberty, Missouri. And my daughter is from here, so across the state line there. And so she went to Liberty, they met the first day, became best friends, have been best friends ever since. And so when the husband of the girl that this is made for, they also met at that same season. So my daughter goes, when they got married, she goes, I want to make them a quilt. And they said they were going to get married. She said, I want to make their quilt. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And she was like, well, have you got something that can do this? And talk about, you know, all these different aspects. Well, we pulled material, pulled pattern blocks, and just put them all in a bag, and my daughter was going to go make it. Well, 2020 rolls around, and this is still in pattern pieces and material or all in a bag. I said, all right, we need to get this done.
And what year did this get started?
She's asked to do it about 16 years ago.
Oh, okay.
2000, I think they got married in 2008, so about 2007, 2008. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what.
Let's start with some details.
Cool.
What is your name?
I'm Stacy.
Stacy. What's your last name?
Houk.
H-O-U-K?
Yes.
And that's how you pronounce that. Glad to know. Thank you. I would have probably done more of a Houk. but
Yeah, a
it's
lot of
Houk.
people do.
Yeah.
And my husband told his English teacher, it's like house.
Yeah.
Because she was mispronouncing it. He goes, it's like house. You know, how you like in house?
Oh,
And
yeah.
she goes, so she got mad at him.
Okay, so tell me the name of the quilt.
This is Journey to Forever.
How many blocks are in this quilt, and when did you start it?
56.
56 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me how they all got started.
As far as pulling the material, it depended on, like for instance, on this material, the couple, when they got out of college, he was teaching overseas in Vietnam or Korea, anyway, somewhere overseas in an Asian country teaching English as a second language. And she joined him after they got married. He came back, they got married, she went with him. And so the Asian culture is where some of this came in. Well, along the line of, you have a boy, Paraguay, he liked the musical, and he grew up, his parents were missionaries. And then the girl is female. Colors had to do with a lot of what they like. She liked the burgundy and hunter green.
Go back to the point where you first gave birth to this idea and how that started.
In 2000 and probably 7 or 8, my daughter made the comment that she wanted to make a quilt for her best friend in their wedding. And we took it, my daughter goes, I want to pick out information that would tell a story. I was like, whatever you want, just tell me. So we went with themes of where they were from and what they liked and the interest that they had. So those were some of the things that we were talking and we were doing. And so we were just pulling out different things. They both like spicy foods, so we had the tamales, hot tamales. They both enjoy various things, their journey through life, through where they've been. So that's where a lot of these came, and it was just pulling fabrics and pulling patterns, pieces. We just pulled them all together, put them in a bag for my daughter to make. We brought it out a couple of times, but in 2020 we went to big time working on it and getting it assembled, at least getting the blocks done. I had to finish up the blocks that had the hand stitching and pretty much a lot of the blocks. We did a divide and conquer. She took part of the blocks back home. We hook up pretty much quarterly. She took part of the blocks back home and I kept part of the blocks, and the easy blocks I let her do. The more difficult blocks are the ones I got. Well, then when
you're the more experienced quilter,
I'm the more experienced piecer. And then when it started going together, well, all the blocks were not the same size. And so I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? Then I'm like, oh, it's a story. You have the leaders for the stories. Smaller ones at the end of the sentence. Those are the ends of pause in the thoughts. And this is, gaps in the story, so along those lines, I was like, what do you think? And she goes, okay, I like that. And then we started putting it together. I think it was last July. We sat down because I had laid all the blocks out and said, okay, how do you want to arrange it? And she goes, well, I like this, I like that. And so I took pictures and sent them to her because she lives 12 hours from us. I said, what do you think? She goes, well, move this, move that. So she's very good about seeing colors and how things go together. So I started laying it down, but I had not finished up the handwork on some of these blocks. I'm like, okay, well then, I believe it was in December of this last year, she came to the house. I said, okay, let's get this done. That's the goal while you're here. We're going to get it done. She had to make that call on sashing, so to speak, and we just started laying out and started adding pieces. So we did it row by row, and then she had the stories. She had the names of every block, and she wrote the story around those names, but it was telling their story. And so we just sort of said, okay, let's rock and roll with this.
What I love most about what I'm hearing from you is that this is such an act of love. I mean, anybody can have the concept, we can make a quilt,
right?
But if it's sustainable and you do it over a period of decades,
yeah.
I mean, that's love.
Yeah,
that's love, and I just love that concept. What I see is like film strips.
Yeah.
To me, with a black and white.
Yeah.
It looks like film strips.
Yeah. She didn't want the little ones. I gave her 3 choices of fabric, either a solid black, the white, the bigger whites, and then the smaller white, the polka dots. And so the end of the thought, the smaller, between. So, but as you can see at the bottom, there is no sashing because the corner over here is called Road to Heaven. So those are 4 blocks that are called Road to Heaven blocks.
So each block has its own personal little narrative.
Correct.
And all of this is included in that story that you sent?
Yes.
Can that be shared on Facebook, on the Lakeside Quilt Making Arts
as
Facebook?
Far as I know.
You want to find out if there was a reason not to before I make it public.
Right. I'll ask her. Okay. The girl that's getting this doesn't know it's coming.
She knows it exists.
She does not know it exists.
Oh, that's so exciting.
She does not know it exists. She does not know it's coming.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to make it even more.
Yeah.
Because my daughter was in her wedding, and she was in my daughter's wedding. So when they got married, when they were getting married outside on the college campus where the couple had met.
Sweet. Do we know anything about aesthetic in her home? Like, some people you think, are they ever going to use this? Are they going to put it in a closet? Is it going to fit in? Are they going to keep it on their sofa? Do you have a feeling that she's going to use it? She will use it.
Her children are, her oldest one just turned 10.
Okay.
So she's got 3.
Yeah. You want to just roll with it, or I can ask you questions?
I'll roll with it, and if you need to ask questions, ask me questions. I'm Sherry Spivey, owner of the Quilting Cottage. I wanted a place that was comfortable for people to come, bring their quilts, sit and visit, maybe have a cup of tea, and get their quilting done. Safe place, kind of fun. And when she brought me this quilt, I was just enamored with the story that it tells. It's wonderful. And the quilting, we kept thinking, gosh, how many things did we talk about? And then I said, oh, 50, just a bunch. And then I said, you know what? This is a marriage under God, and the stars of heaven and the stars align and all of that. God is watching over them, and we just love the stars going through all of it. That's came up with that one, the heavenly realms. And God's the one that knew from the very beginning they were going to meet, and they were going to have these wonderful children and all of this, and that you were even going to be making this quilt. One of the neat things I do with my quilting, not everybody knows this, but when this quilt goes on, as I'm preparing for it and everything and quilting it, I'm busy praying for the hands that made it, the hands that are going to receive it. And in this case, a couple other that were involved with it too. Right. But it's a privilege to get to do that. And I just think this is such a unique gift for her. It just says blessing every way.
I personally love the fact that you pray over your quilters who are bringing you quilts. I certainly got better after I met you. You need to keep on praying.
I have people that will drop in. Can you say a prayer for me? Will you pray over me? Sure, come on. But yeah, it's a privilege to get to do that. God is everywhere. He's even in the quilts.
Absolutely. Quilting is such a healing thing. You've quilted for a lot of people and on a lot of quilts, but this one stood out to you.
This one is after my own heart. It's just absolutely precious. The story behind it, which you're going to share the entire story later, but the story between each block and what it means and everything, it's just precious. And the fact that a mother and daughter got to do this for her friend. And it's just, it's a story, God's love for us, the love from a mother and a daughter, love from a friend to a friend, and the love for these marriages and families. It's just precious. It's a wonderful quilt.
It really is. I love a narrative quilt.
Any other questions?
No, this is great. Thank you.
It's wonderful.
Did you curate your fabric stash and say it's all going to be coming from this stash?
No.
Or you just, as you did each block, you cherry picked fabrics and then went to the store to find something, or just all from your stash?
Most of it was from the stash. The background here is a map. That is specifically because they love to travel. And so that's why we chose that backing. Some of it, most of this is from a stash because I've made many quilts over the years, or if something particular might show up that was specifically for them. Much like this one, she wanted something that had to do with music, and because of where he grew up in the mission field. And so that's where I found a panel that had different musical instruments. The words on the one at the top, it was trying to speak some life and giving connectivity to them. The teas, they both love teas. My daughter and she would share a cup of hot tea every once in a while. That's where the specialties might come in, but most of them was from different quilts I have made over the years. Or if my daughter saw one that she liked, she's like, I think this would be great.
56 blocks, you said.
Yes, ma'am.
And so we got 56 different short narratives.
Correct.
How did we curate those? How did you refine it down to we're going to do these 56 ones?
Basically, it was let's pull.
Yeah.
And then my daughter wrote the story.
Yeah.
She's the creative on writing the story. She loves writing stories sometimes. Once we decided on the blocks that she wanted and she got it started going together, we did a collaboration on the story because she put it in with the name of each block and it wasn't flowing for the way I thought it should flow. And so I assisted her and I gave her a little bit broader storyline and she refined it. And that's what's on the going to be in the pocket in the back.
Okay, tell me about this.
The quilt label, basically an envelope that is included the backing material and the red, which the girl likes red. So in order to see the name of it, Gaia, who does work with Sherry, took it and did this. I made the block and she did the embroidery work on it. So she did a phenomenal job. I gave her the name of the quilt and the salmon. I designed it and made it together. And then that Sherry quilted it and we completed it. It was all done in January of this year. Sherry quilted it and then Gaia did the binding. And then I was like, okay, can you do because I wanted a label on it. Everybody says you need to have a label. And I'm like, okay, because I normally don't put labels on my quilts. So I made this and brought it to her and she
I love this design. It's like an opened envelope.
So what I'm going to do is when I get home, I'm going to basically make this where only 3 sides are going to be attached to the quilt. And the other one is going to be open. The 4th side will be open when I put it on the back of the quilt. The story that goes along with this quilt has been sublimated on a piece of material. I'm going to finish it out and fold it, and it's going to go inside the pocket.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's going to go with the quilt.
That's lovely.
So that if anybody ever asks, okay, what's the deal with this? She will have the story.
Are you comfortable reading that story out loud?
It starts out, let's take a journey back a few years to the beginning of a beautiful love story. It began in the fall of 2004, which is the maple leaf block, when a young man with a family in Wyoming, which is the next block, who loved spicy food, met a young lady with a family in Missouri who loved rubber ducks. They both believed in Jesus is their Lord and Savior because he sacrificed his life to them. They met the first day of college, William Jewell College, which is the Jewel Box, where many wonderful relationships were formed and cherished. In the first week of fall semester, a fun Western-themed dorm event was hosted, having each person dressed in their best Western attire. They found themselves talking to each other for hours. One of their favorite professors wore a bow tie, and he became an integral part of their lives. They enjoyed spending time with him and his family. Many Sunday meals were shared as they gathered after church to enjoy the blessing of the Father. The young couple were at a crossroads as they both decided to not date anyone that fall. They needed to immerse themselves in their studies as well as expand their friendships to other students. But like darting birds, they kept running into each other and developed a deeper relationship with one another. They built a strong friendship that semester, and in the spring, they started dating. They took refuge with each other and their closest friends during the stormy seasons in their lives giving hope to the bright future. They knew there were many obstacles to overcome, but they were willing to work together to get through it. Hence, the young man who grew up in Paraguay fell in love with the beautiful girl from Missouri, and he asked her to marry him. They took steps to the altar through the building of trust each day. Before the wedding, he looked for job opportunities and found a teaching position in Korea. He and his best friend could teach, and there was a position for her as well. She finished up her degree and planned a wedding with fans, a wedding as wedding favors, good for creating a breeze on the hot summer day. Hope was kindled that the wedding would happen smoothly. After the wedding, she joined him in Korea and began teaching English. While overseas, they decided to buy a purebred cat named Anya. Unfortunately, Anya passed away too soon. They missed her and decided to rescue 2 kittens. They also decided to take advantage of living so close to other countries to visit them, learn their cultures, and develop lifelong friendships. When it was time for them to return home, they considered to take a long boat ride. However, they opted for a plane instead. The young man wanted to further his education, and the college of choice was in New Jersey. This was a great selection because they both loved theater. While in New Jersey, they had numerous talks with God as well as with each other about their future. They had some big decisions to make about how to fulfill their dreams and bright future. During this time, they decided to have their first child. This child is a delightful puzzle, fitting into the family perfectly. After he received his master's degree, they decided to move to Norfolk, Virginia, and the seashore. She supported him in his pursuit of his doctorate degree. An old house with several trees in the yard was rented. This allowed summers outside to be enjoyed in the shade, including a tree swing. While he pursued his doctorate, she supported the family by working at a senior care agency. She enjoys helping others. While working, they decided to have another child. This second son was a great sense of humor. He spread joy wherever he goes. Finally, the young lady found her dream job. She started working at their church as the children's ministry director. Along the way, they discovered life does not go as smoothly as one hopes, and they were tossed to and fro. Many things were broken and needed to be repaired. Even in the midst of turmoil, blessings still occur. One such blessing was the birth of their third child. She was received with open arms and lots of love. She is strong like her parents and a jewel. Things started coming together again when he completed his doctorate. However, they came to another crossroads. Do they stay in Virginia or move elsewhere? He was offered a job at the university where he received his degree, and several other jobs came his way. They opted to stay in Virginia, which meant she could continue working at her dream job. She continued pouring love into her family and her church family as well. His position allowed him to thrive as a professor and researcher, and as a bonus, they were able to buy their first house near the seashore. A relaxing first Christmas in their new home was enjoyed. Planes and a great van allowed them to travel not only for their work, but to see family and friends in other states. Gates started opening new opportunities for them. However, wrenches are still thrown in to their work from time to time. They have learned to work each of these opportunities like puzzles while keeping their eye on the promise of Jesus. Their faith is strong because they know the Lord provides all their needs. He is always with them. They continue to grow their faith, knowing one day they will be walking the streets of gold with their Heavenly Father at the end of their journey on earth.
That's lovely. There's so much love in this. I love that. I think others will too. Maybe it will inspire others. Are you in the habit of making your quilts to give away?
Yes.
Do you keep any yourself?
I've got a few.
Yeah.
My first one I ever made, besides my daughter's first quilt. When my husband was serving in Desert Storm, I took a class and learned how to make the pineapple block. and I made that quilt. And his grandmother hand quilted it for us. So that one I keep. I just have all sorts, but most of them I give away. There's a young lady that spoke this past Saturday night, and my husband reminded me. He said, "Didn't you make her a quilt?" And I said, "Yes." Because when she was in 2004, she had cancer. So I made a quilt that had hot air balloon on it, and her mom said she still has it. Well, several years have passed. She's now married, and her story is they diagnosed her with cancer again. And at the time, she was pregnant. So there was a long story that went through that, but she is cancer free, thank the Lord. I mean, there was a lot of praying that went around for this child and her unborn child. So they are both doing great. I do a lot of those. Sherry's going to be doing the quilting for them. I love scrappy quilts. I do have some that are not scrappy, so to speak, but I love scrappy quilts because it just brings out colors. But if people have a particular theme, yes. One lady wanted a t-shirt quilt done for her daughter. I'm like, all right, you go buy the material, I'll put together. And so I did that. I do it out of gifting. She's like, can you do this? And I'm like, yeah. And so she paid me to do that. Didn't charge probably as much as I should have, but that's okay.
Right. You can't charge what it's worth.
Right, exactly. People don't understand how much goes into quilting.
Yeah, your heart goes into it, your soul.
Right. And like Sherry I'll pray over, something while I'm working on a particular one. I do a lot of things for friends, and they feel completely blessed. My best friend's husband, he had written a book. I took the cover of his book and I made a wall hanging, 1-inch block, 1-inch piece, and I had to go find material. So I was doing this, and they knew nothing about it. Gave it to him for his birthday the year he got published. Sherry did the quilting on one. I'm in 2022. I lost my mom. 6 weeks later, my best friend lost her mom. Friday before her mom passed, she found out she was going to be a great-grandmother. So I made the new great-grandbaby. I made a quilt for her, and on the back, made the label with the picture of the great-grandmother and the mother, and I put the memory of the verse from Psalms of "You're fearfully and wonderfully made," but I also put the information, and on the backing, it had the ABC. So, and I found out it was going to be a little girl, so I had a theme, and I just picked up a block, found a pattern I liked, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I gave it to them.
That's sweet. There's so much love that is inside every quilt. That's why we can't charge. I mean, like, no matter how much you get paid. Yeah. And not every quilt is so sentimental. Right. But you're still pouring so much into it.
Right. All these little intricate connections come in.
Yeah.
And I enjoy, if I think of somebody or something comes up, it's like, I need to make them something. I don't quilt. I don't do the long arm like Sherry and them.
Do you do any hand or on a domestic machine?
Yes,
you do some?
I do some.
Have you entered many competitions, and have you won any ribbons?
When I was growing up, I would enter competitions at the fairgrounds. I would win. So
your quilting history goes back that far, to when you were a youth?
No, actually, that was all handwork. I started quilting in 1990, I believe, when my daughter went to school. I made her a lap quilt so she could sleep at school. She was kindergarten. My grandmother was big time into making quilts and making all of her Christmas presents. Everything that we ever got for Christmas, my grandmother made. She would either cross stitch or she would make ceramic items, whatever. And I pretty much inherited her love of that. For me to do, make quilt tops, it was a journey, but it was also, it's a way of, I can express my creative aspect of life. I cross stitch, I crochet, so I was very creative no matter what. But making quilts is where my passion comes up.
Do you do much else besides quilt making?
I don't do the pottery. This is cleaner.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
I like something that I can take with me. I can do handwork and travel and do what I need to.
What advice would you have for a new quilter?
Don't be afraid of mistakes. Enjoy what pleases you, what draws your eyes, the colors. It's yours. It's a one-of-a-kind creation. Enjoy it. Don't be afraid. And if you think, oh, I messed up, you can frame it. You can do whatever. You can put it into a quilt and enjoy it. because there's nothing precise and perfect about a lot of it.
Doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't have
Right.
to be. Even going into a show, I'm at the point where it's like, I just want to, this is something creative. Let's see what gets the, if I'm going to be judged, okay, don't get my feelings hurt, because I know that judges are going to nitpick, and that's what they're supposed to do to help you become better. So don't be afraid to become better. And for me, it has been a journey, because I used to not square up my blocks. Here in the last little while, I do more along the line of squaring up the block. I've learned to be more free, and it's like, it's okay, because somebody else made it and they put love into it. That's where, for a new quilter, just go have fun.
Right.
Just
And finish
enjoy.
it.
And finish it.
Finish one, even if you think you've made a horrible mistake in the middle of
Right,
it.
right.
Get it finished.
Right.
Wash it, dry it.
Right.
Because if you're not in love with the fact that, for whatever reason, once you have the experience touching that thing and it's completed, it's bound and it's washed and dried and crinkly, that shows you its real purpose in life. And it isn't about whether or not some points match up.
Right. The love that goes into making quilts is priceless. There are a lot of people that get all wiggity, and it's like, and they'll just put it away and never do it, never finish it.
That's a new word for me. What was that?
Wiggity.
Wiggity.
Sorry.
Like wigging out.
Right.
Wiggity.
Like wigging out.
I am adopting that word.
I mean, when you think about it, there's a lot of things in this that could be difficult. How can you do it differently to make it more easier for yourself? Don't be afraid to experiment.
When does this get gifted?
It will be sometime this year, within the next few months. But yeah, this is a labor of love, and it was fun.
It's quite evident.
It was fun. It was like, okay, because some of these blocks were like, okay, how do you put them together? You see the patterns, and it's like, okay, how does this go together? And I had to do a lot of, how do I put this together? So that's what, don't be afraid to try. For young quilters, new quilters, don't be afraid to try.
Wasn't that delightful? I just enjoyed every minute of that, and had a happy little surprise at the end. Someone else, another friend and customer of Sherry's, because I think all of her customers become her friends, came in, and she does sublimation printing, which has been high on my radar. So I've asked her if she would do an interview with me, because I'd like to do some printing of some artwork on fabric and then do some thread painting over that. And I kind of want to learn the skills, and I think, go to a professional, let her teach you. She says, I don't gatekeep. I don't gatekeep because others didn't gatekeep with me. And I think that's a lovely attitude. So it was a great little chat with her. We're going to set something up in a few weeks, and whenever I do that interview and get it ready for you guys, I'll make sure you know about it too. I hope you enjoy these little interviews. Do you see it getting darker? Isn't that cool? I hope you enjoy these little interviews and getting to know other quilters in the area and just seeing the passion that everybody has. We're all so different, and we all have such different, gosh, how do you put that? Creativity and outlets and perspectives, and it's lovely to see it come together. One of the things I loved about what Stacy said to any new quilter, don't let your mistakes hold you up. Just keep on pushing forward, finish it. It's not about perfection. It's about the love that goes into it and about that finished product so that it can be loved on. So if you've made some mistakes in your quilt, don't worry about it. Keep on going, figure out some workaround, add a little border to it, do something, forget about the fact your points are cut off, whatever it is. It's okay to strive for perfection. Go for it. If that's what you like, do it. But if something doesn't meet that guideline that you've set out for yourself, don't let it hold you up. Just keep on pushing on. My friends, we're moving the needle every day. Just do a little bit of something and see where it takes you. Thanks for being here. Take care.